continues Friday in Brazil. Then on Sunday with another packed slate, including the Jaguars visiting the Dolphins. Whose quarterback Tua Tagovailoa wants to show he's got that it factor that could finally get Miami a taste of postseason success once again. And if you haven't set your fantasy lineup yet, what are you doing? You are running out of time. Drop everything and open up that NFL Fantasy app now. Or, just wait like 45 minutes, then Michael F. Florio will tell you who to sit and to start. Welcome inside with the Insiders, alongside Ian Rappaport, Judy Batista, Mike Garafolo. I am Tom Pelissero. We are back on Fast Applications here. I don't think that's what it's called. Fast platforms, whatever. We're back on Fast once again. This is where we got our start back in 2022. You're going to catch us here every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. If you're wondering what Fast is and you're watching this someplace else, just Google it. It's not that hard. It's all out there. We're also streaming on NFL Plus. We're on YouTube. A lot of different ways that you can get to this show. We're happy to be back here with our roots on a big day in the NFL, and also a day with a little bit of a surprise for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their quarterback, Russell Wilson, limited in practice today because of what Mike Tomlin termed to be calf tightness. Now, of course, you remember Russell Wilson also hurt a calf back in the conditioning drill on the first day of training camp. He has dealt with some calf injuries in the past. Mike Tomlin not ready to sound the alarm just yet, Mike, but this is generally not something you want to hear on the Wednesday of your opener, which is your quarterback who had an injury 6 weeks or so ago, now appears to be dealing with something similar once again.
And this is why you've got to be cautious with calf injuries and why the Steelers tried to be cautious or were cautious with Russell Wilson during training camp, the early portion where he sat out and he was just taking mental reps as much as possible while Justin Fields got those snaps. Well, sort of here we are again, but the hope is that not necessarily to the point where they've got to shelve him. He's going to get checked out by doctors. Mike Tomlin making it sound like it was an abundance of caution as the reason for holding him out. But you're right. It's not great. It's not a great sign because this is practice, and all of a sudden, if in the game you kind of push it even harder and you get a little something there, Judy, it gets worse. But I do know at least there's confidence in Pittsburgh that if he can't play this week, and Mike Tomlin saying no long-term concerns, but what about the short term? They got a game in a couple of days here. Even if he can't play, they did like what they saw from Justin Fields in the preseason. They feel like no matter what happens with either quarterback week one and throughout the season, that they're going to be okay. But we're going to have to keep an eye on this, certainly for the next couple of days.
Yes, this certainly bears watching. All the way back at the beginning of training camp when Russell Wilson was injured and they were being very cautious, very conservative about ramping him up, I talked to Mike Tomlin about it, and he said then, this is a small inconvenience and we don't want it to turn into a big problem. Well, he might not call it a big problem right now, but certainly it's more than a small inconvenience when you're 3 days out from the season opener and your starting quarterback is seeing doctors for any reason at all. Again, Mike Tomlin was asked, do you have any long-term concern about this? And he said, none. But just to put this in context, a calf injury is what slowed Joe Burrow at this time last year, right? He had it during training camp. It hobbled him at the very first few weeks of the season. It took him a few weeks to sort of round into form. Joe Burrow is a younger quarterback than Russell Wilson is now. So certainly we have to keep an eye on this, not just for this Sunday, but for the coming weeks.
When we were all at Steelers training camp, we're not you, Mike, but the rest of us here, we're all at Steelers training camp. Among the interesting things that picked up was that the Steelers, you were not there. We were all there and Mike was not there, right? Or was it?
But I was there.
Well, I'm just saying, we were all there together and you weren't.
Regardless.
Anyway, whatever.
Carry on.
Regardless, go away. Yes, one of the things I picked up was how unbelievably cautious the Steelers are relating to calf injuries because their medical staff believes that if you hurry a calf injury, if you push a player along, it can lead to a ton of other injuries. And really one of those things that you have to talk about abundance of caution, like even more abundance of caution. And now here we are again. It's Thursday. The game is in 3 days and Russell Wilson reports calf tightness. This to me, I'm not saying long term it seems alarming, but in the short term it really does because the last time this happened, they pulled Russell Wilson back for several weeks in training camp, allowing Justin Fields to really shine, allowing all of us to see, and Steelers personnel as well, to see that maybe they have another starting quarterback on the roster too, despite Russell Wilson being given pole position on the starting quarterback job. This, to me, throws all of it up in the air. I'm not saying definitively that we'll see Justin Fields on Sunday, but, man, it really does open the door to that possibility, and it's a good thing for the team that he was so impressive in training camp that if it has to happen, they'll be okay regardless.
Mike Tomlin very much likes to stick with the plan, give people every opportunity to show that they deserve to maintain their jobs. We saw it last year. All of a sudden, Kenny Pickett got nicked up, and then suddenly you're in a playoff game. Pickett's healthy, and it's Mason Rudolph starting at quarterback. Definitely something to monitor here in the days and even weeks to come. From a guy with some calf soreness to a guy who dealt with ankle soreness at times in training camp, Dak Prescott, fully healthy at this point, not listed on the initial injury report for the week. Still awaiting a new contract extension that potentially could come prior to Sunday's opener against the Browns. Here's what we know, Ian. The Cowboys effectively cannot franchise tag Dak Prescott once again next March. So if they do not get a deal done sooner than later here, he's going to become an unrestricted free agent, and they have very little control over Dak finding a better money and a better contract someplace else. Where, based on what you know, do we stand right now in terms of the probability that they can actually bring this thing to a head prior to Sunday?
You know, I got some headlines locally in Dallas for saying the clock is ticking a couple days ago. The clock is still ticking. It has continued ticking from when I said that a couple days ago to literally right now. The clock is ticking for the Dallas Cowboys. They really are running out of time. And, you know, the stakes are probably as high here for any contract extension discussions that I can remember in a very, very long time. Because if the Cowboys don't get a deal done, I would say by week 1 for Dak Prescott, then it really does open up the possibility of him hitting free agency next year, being the highest profile free agent we've ever seen. The Dallas Cowboys moving on from someone who has been their franchise quarterback for a decade. All of those things are very much in play. They can get a deal done. It is certainly possible. They've had productive talks, but from my knowledge, it does not seem like they are close. If they were close, then I would say a deal would be in striking distance. It does not feel like that right now. It is Thursday. After that is Friday, and then Saturday, and then the game. So they don't have a lot of time to get this done, and the fact that they are not there yet, I would say for Cowboys fans, does kind of bring up potentially another reality where Dak Prescott is not your quarterback going forward. What?
I love Ian explaining the calendar. Yeah, repeat it one more time, just in case anyone was questioning. Tomorrow's Friday, Mike, Ian said, according to sources.
Hold on.
The day after that, Saturday,
you said today was Wednesday to start the show, so I needed to tell people that it's Thursday, and then after Thursday, Friday, after Friday, Saturday, and then the game is Sunday.
And then the game's Sunday.
I didn't say Wednesday, I said Thursday. We're on the NFL channel on fast platforms, and
before
so I know
we even get to that,
today is Thursday. Judy, go ahead.
Yeah, before we even get to the idea of Dak playing it out and becoming the biggest free agent we've ever seen, think of what it's going to be like on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis if Dak is playing on the final year of his contract. It is going to be daily, weekly parsing of Dak's performance, weekly parsing of whatever Jerry Jones says in his post-game scrum with reporters. It's going to be even more intense than a normal Dallas Cowboys season, and that's pretty intense. So everybody should buckle up. It's probably going to get uncomfortable at times, and if they struggle at any point, if he struggles at any point, whoo, look out. That is going to get really, really ugly to watch.
If only, this is an Instagram meme thing that they do. If only there were a program that loves to just, you know, latch its talons into drama when it comes to the Oh, that's us! That's us! So we're going to be fine. We're going to have plenty of material this upcoming season, as Judy said.
Bring it on.
I honestly, to pull back the curtain completely, forgot what I was going to say here because I'm just locked on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the game. I just want to make sure that I have that correct there. Listen, I think that Dak Prescott has made it clear that if this is not done before this weekend, his statement is it'll be a big statement whether it's done or not done. If it's not done and this carries into the season, it brings with it that drama. I don't think it necessarily. I think it's actually somewhat of a good thing for the Cowboys because he's going to be motivated and he is going to. When Dak gets that edge and Dak starts to feel things going, I feel like he's an even better quarterback. I know Dak gets a lot of heat. I like Dak. I think that this could be something that spurs him to better performance this upcoming season. You're then going to have to pay for it at the end of the season if you want to retain him. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be a bad thing. Like the pressure's going to cave. I don't think so. I think it could help Dak.
All right, let's stay on the theme of lower appendage problems with the 49ers star running back Christian McCaffrey, who apparently added one on the latest injury report. The 49ers now listing him as calf/Achilles. And let me tell you, that slash is doing some pretty heavy lifting. He is participating in practice. The expectation continues to be that McCaffrey is going to be good to go on Monday night against the Jets, but certainly something to monitor. A lot to monitor in that game. Aaron Rodgers among them, coming back from his own Achilles injury, almost 1 year to the day, back on Monday Night Football, and the expectations remain high.
Regardless of what happens on Monday, we win, the headline's going to be, we're going to the Super Bowl. We lose, same old Jets. So I think we need to get away from some of those outside themes and trust that the program, if it's good enough week one, it's good enough the rest of the season. So we got to trust the process, be great competitors, show up, be professionals, and show out on the field, and let the chips fall where they may.
Judy, Aaron Rodgers still relatively new to New York, but had a lot of time on his hands to peruse the tabloids last season while on injured reserve. I'd say he more or less nailed the response in your market there.
Yeah, he has pretty much figured out the New York market. I will say this about Aaron Rodgers. I'll say this about the entire Jets organization this go around as compared to last year at this time. It's much more businesslike. It's much less of the sort of circus and the hoopla around it that we saw last year. They are a much more businesslike team right now than they were, and that probably bodes well because all of the outside noise is going to be blocked out for them. And he's right. If they get off to a fast start, everybody in New York is going to get really excited about the Super Bowl. But I do think there is just less of the circus than there was that surrounded them last year.
Let me paint you a scenario, Aaron Rodgers. If you lose 49-0, as long as you are standing at the end of the game, the story is you're better off than you were a year ago after the first game where you actually won the game. But yeah, I agree. Judy, when we were there at training camp, Judy, you and I were there. Ian was not there since we're playing attendance now, apparently. You saw that edge.
Sorry you weren't there.
You saw that urgency on display. Business-like is another way that I would describe it, but like business-like with that edge, with that urgency turned up. The way that he was just communicating with everybody on both sides of the ball, talking to offensive linemen, not about like how they set their feet and where to put their hands when they block. That's not his specialty, but about what's happening sort of behind them and what the offense is trying to do. Because remember, he and Nathaniel Hackett are sort of one mind when it comes to the offense. So this is a guy who, for lack of a better term, is on a mission this year. And provided he stays upright, I like the business-like approach. I like the urgency. I like a lot of reasons for the Jets to be a team in contention this year.
Hassan Reddick also on a mission, though it remains unclear exactly a mission to do what. What we know as of this point, Ian, is that he wants a new contract. He has still not shown up. Robert Saleh not ruling out the possibility he could play Monday night, but let's be honest, that ship has more or less sailed. Where do we stand right now with Hassan Reddick, who, by the way, stands to lose a lot of money if he starts missing regular season games?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little under $1 million per game if he were to miss a game. And look, this has been, I would say, one of the most strangest, most frustrating, oddest, whatever word you want to say, holdout that we have seen in some time. Certainly, I can't remember a lot of times when a team is traded for a guy, then he just has declined to show up. Does not happen very often. The fact that there hasn't been some sort of compromise, I would say, really doesn't help either party, right? I mean, Hassan Reddick wants a new multi-year contract. The Jets are willing to do something, seems to be more short-term. He's not showing up until they talk about it with him. They're not talking about it with him until he shows up, and this is where we are. It is always theoretically possible that Hassan Reddick shows up, let's say the day before the game, collects his game check, and that's where it stands. We have seen that before. But you could also see, as you guys were talking about last night, the Chris Jones / Katz Brothers approach, where he shows up and watches and says, good luck without me. The problem is the Jets defense is going to be good. And God forbid they go out and shut down the 49ers, then, what does he do? So I think that's kind of part of the problem is with or with Hassan Reddick is very good, and he will certainly help this Jets defense. they will also be okay without him. All the things he has to weigh as he figured out what's he going to do over the next 48 hours.
Jets 49ers, that is Monday Night Football. We got Chiefs and Ravens tonight, Thursday Night Football. We also have Friday Night Football from Brazil, a real thing that's happening here in 2024. The Eagles and the Packers are on the ground. So is our Jane Slater, who gives us a look inside that stadium right after this on The Insiders.
Let's take our mind right to Brazil, where we got some Packers and Eagles on the practice field. That right there was Jordan Love doing his thing. Now you see the Eagles on the game field. God, I cannot wait for this one. You know the atmosphere is going to be absolutely crazy, as it was last year in Germany, as it really is anytime the NFL takes us outside the United States. Our friend Jane Slater is literally there right now giving us everything that's happening. Jane, why don't you tell us whatever's in your notebook and get us ready for this big-time game on Friday night.
Eagles players and staff, as well as you, the fans now, getting your first look at Corinthians Arena. This is the site of Friday's first ever South American game. And while we've been focusing heavily on the excitement around it, we did talk a little football, namely head coach Nick Sirianni's excitement surrounding this new look offense, describing Kellen Moore, his new OC, as, quote, as advertised. He even talked about sitting next to him on the plane, going over the nuances of the game while also enjoying some bonding over their two sons playing on the same Pee Wee football team. Now, expectations are equally high on the defensive side of the ball. This was a defense that you might remember was bottom 3 last season in scoring, passing, and red zone. After using their first-round pick on corner Quinyon Mitchell, I asked him about how his rookie was responding, given his first game will be on an international stage in Vic Fangio's system, known for its disguises and complexity at times. He told me, quote, Q has a calm demeanor about him, and a lot of that comes from his preparation, which he says has helped him earn the respect of teammates like Darius Slay. Not on this trip, linebacker Devin White. Sirianni says that he came up with an ankle injury this week in practice, and while he doesn't typically go into who his starters are going to be, the expectation is that it will be Nakobe Dean. Now, one thing I didn't think about, and Sirianni brought up, was the challenge of unexpected noise in here. In other words, some of the fans may not be familiar with when you're quiet for particular teams and their offenses being on the field, but Sirianni did his best to politic for his Eagles, saying, quiet down when Jalen and company are on the field.
Good stuff, Jane, and hopefully the crowd listens to Nick Sirianni, although I'm not sure maybe the Packers would want that. Anyway, let's turn to our good friend and, of course, front office expert, Mark Ross, to give us a little more on this game, which is going to be a fantastic, fantastic way to kick off the season a second time after the Thursday night game. Mark, why don't you take us inside your thoughts on the Eagles and the Packers on Friday night?
Yeah, it should be a heck of a game, Ian. And I'll start with the Eagles first, just because I live here in Philadelphia. I got some family members down in Brazil right now hanging out. Hopefully they're being safe. Nice. But with the Eagles, a lot of questions. For a team with such high expectations, there still is a lot of questions coming in off this offseason. Are we going to see that 10-1 team from last year at that point, or that team that lost 6 of the last 7 and got blown out in the playoffs? Because that's still a little bit of fragile psyche here in the Philadelphia area about who's going to show up with Nick Sirianni. Has he taken command and mended his relationship with Jalen Hurts? Jane mentioned Kellen Moore, but a new offensive coordinator, and Jalen Hurts said, hey, 95% of this is new. So how quickly will that offense, despite all that talent, the addition of Saquon Barkley, be able to gel and be prolific on the defensive side of the ball? Again, another new coordinator, Vic Fangio, in there. Do they have enough pass rush? Hassan Reddick, who we mentioned already, is gone. Is it enough pass rush? Are the linebackers good enough? The secondary, will they be able to stop the Packers? So the Eagles, despite a ton of talent in, there are a lot of question marks there. And who's going to show up on Friday? For the Packers, on the flip side, we saw the resurgence at the end of the year. They started slow and then finished strong, of course, with the blowout of Dallas. And then people forget they were winning the game going in the fourth quarter against the 49ers. They were up 10 before they fell apart there in the fourth quarter, got outscored 10-0 there in the fourth. So Jordan Love took the huge step, ton of young talent around him, young playmakers around him. I would expect those guys to even gel even more and be better this year. Jordan Love to take that step. They should be better on the defensive side of the ball. We're sort of the bottom of the league there. So new defensive coordinator there, expect them to be better. So you have the team that finished very strong against a team that fell apart. And then on Friday, we'll see which one of those teams shows up. But it should be an exciting game nonetheless, Ian.
Two teams who took literally completely opposite paths to end last season. Both I know have very high expectations for this season. I can't wait to see which one goes where and how it all plays out. Mark Ross, thank you very much for your thoughts, as always, and we will talk to you, no doubt, very soon.
From Friday Night Football to Sunday Night Football, how about a playoff rematch? Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, members of a pretty big trade from a few years ago, facing off once again. One of the main figures also in that game, Rams coach Sean McVay, who sat down with our Kurt Warner.
Hey! Keep eating. Let's go. Yes!
So, Coach, you're entering your 8th season as the Rams head coach, 4th longest tenured guy in the NFL. What excites you going into every new season?
I think really the new challenges, the new people. You know this as well as I do, Kurt. It's every year is a new year, and every year presents multiple challenges. What you did last year is not going to get you the same success that you had the previous year, and so we're looking forward to it. But I think just the newness of it and the competitiveness and the challenges that are inevitable in a season.
This year, you're going to have to do it without one of the greatest players that this league has ever seen in Aaron Donald. So who do you identify on the defensive side that you say, all right, these guys are going to have the impact to replace what we lost in '99?
You know, nobody's going to be Aaron Donald. I don't want anybody to try to do that. What a blessing it was to be able to work with him for 7 years.
Hey, Aaron, this is the moment, right now.
He had a tremendous influence on some players that are still here, on Kobe Turner, on Bobby Brown. And then you add some guys like Braden Fisk, like Jared Verse. You bring in a guy like Tre'Davious White. You know, Quentin Lake's ready to assert himself in a leadership role. And so I'm really excited about those guys and this team really being able to put their personality on their style of play.
Hey, when the pass on, we see who's a football player. Oh, no! Hey, oh, no!
And I want guys to be themselves, not try to be anybody else, but they sure saw a great example of somebody that modeled the way, and that's the best way to demonstrate authentic leadership.
Stafford from the pocket, he deals down the seam, it's caught, touchdown LA!
You definitely have impact players on offense, starting with your quarterback in Matthew Stafford. I don't think he's often enough mentioned as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Do you believe that he gets the respect that he deserves?
No, I don't think so. I'm right there with you. You know, the way he plays the position, how quick his brain works, his ability to be able to activate all parts of the field with his arm. I thought he really did a good job of being able to extend plays with his legs, too. I jokingly say, you know, he's been playing tennis. He looks like Alcaraz navigating the court. You know, we always say those who know. And the people that are around Matthew on a daily basis, and they understand what he enables us to do. And I'm sure grateful he's our quarterback.
Well, Matthew's got a couple big-time weapons on his side of the ball as well. And let's start with Cooper Kupp. A few years removed from his record-breaking season. What can we expect from Cooper this year?
I think a healthier guy, and he still was incredibly productive for us last year in spite of all the different things that he was working through, but it shows you what a special guy is. And I was even more proud of the way that he positively impacted our team, both on the field, but also off the field. Puka Nacua doesn't do what he does without the mentorship and guidance of a Cooper Kupp.
Matthew Stafford returns to the Motor City with the Los Angeles Rams.
Week 1, schedule makers always do a great job. Back to Detroit, where you guys had that great playoff matchup to finish the season last year.
Yeah, what a great challenge. I mean, physical, tough, excellent football team coming a couple plays away from going to a Super Bowl. And that atmosphere was incredible. I mean, they were booing, and they were just saying some mean things to me, and it was a great atmosphere. That's what you love about the NFL, the opportunity to go see if you can be at your best, and whatever happens, happens, and let's get back up and let's keep swinging. And so we're going to prepare as well as we can so that we can be at our best on the 8th of September.
You can catch the entire Sean McVay sit-down interview Sunday on Game Day morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, with Rich Eisen, Kurt Warner, Steve Mariucci, Gerald McCoy, Colleen Wolfe, Cynthia Freeling, Kyle Brandt, Daniel Jeremiah, of course, all of us, the insiders, plus reporters at stadiums across the country, as we get you set for kickoff with NFL Game Day morning. We don't yet know if Jamar Chase will have a new contract prior to Sunday. We do know Joe Burrow still looks like Eminem in 1998. They've got the Patriots coming into Cincinnati. Our Bridget Condon will help us dig into that matchup right after this on The Insiders.
The all-new dynamic kickoff rule for the upcoming season will noticeably change one of the most iconic plays in the game. The dynamic kickoff was created to address the lowest kickoff return rate in NFL history during the 2023 season and an unacceptable injury rate on kickoffs prior to that. From the formation the players take on the field, to the zones the ball can land in, and when the players can move, this play will look completely different from what fans are used to seeing. EA Sports teamed with coaches around the league who helped create the rule. If it's in the game, it's in Madden 25. The dynamic kickoff will keep the excitement of kickoff returns in the game while returning the injury rate closer to that of a traditional scrimmage play. The kicking team will kick off from its own 35-yard line. 10 members of the kicking team will line up on the receiving team's 40-yard line. A minimum of 9 members of the receiving team will line up between the 30 and 35-yard or hits the ground in the landing zone or is returned from the end zone. Any kick that bounces from the landing zone to the end zone must be returned or down by the receiving team for a touchback and possession at its 20-yard line. If a kick fails to reach the landing zone, the receiving team takes possession at its 40-yard line. If the ball enters the end zone in the air, the receiving team can return it or down it for a touchback and take possession at its 30-yard line. If the ball goes out of bounds, the receiving team takes possession at its 40-yard line. Onside kicks are only permitted in the fourth quarter. Setup and landing zones do not change after penalties or a safety. Only the spot where the ball is kicked changes. While there's a huge benefit to player health and safety here, the hope with this rule change is that it will ultimately add more returns and, in turn, more excitement to the kickoff. The dynamic kickoff is here, and the game will never be the same.
Thanks to our buddy Charles Davis for that fantastic explainer on the dynamic kickoff rule that gets its first real test with Week 1 kicking off tonight. Now, what I can tell you is the league sent a memo to clubs this week clarifying and tweaking some pretty minor stuff, like the ball needs to be kicked off the tee, not from next to the tee. You can tack on penalty yardage rather than re-kicking everything. But for anybody who is waiting for some drastic shift based on the preseason, my understanding is nothing's going to substantively change here through the course of 2024. And Judy, that makes sense because, as Charles said, there's really 2 reasons the NFL did this. Yes, get the return rate up, but also make this into a safer play. You need time to gather the data over the course of this season. How big are the collisions? How fast are guys running? Those are the answers that we don't have quite yet. It is certainly possible we get a rash of touchbacks early in the season. In the big picture, future years, there's things they can do. Move the touchback up, move the kickoff back, but you're not going to do that until you figure out exactly how safe this play is going to be. And also, let's remember, Judy, late in the season, as the weather turns, the return rate has historically gone up. So what you see starting tonight may not be exactly where we are down the line this season.
I think the biggest question here is, are we going to see a return rate substantially higher than last year? Because as the preseason went on, in the first week of the preseason, there were a lot of returns, including a handful of them that went for over 40 yards. And then with each succeeding week, the number of returns declined. And so the question is going to be, are coaches just going to say to their kickers, kick it into the end zone? We will let the opposing offense start it on the 30-yard line. We feel like we can defend that. That's not really going to solve the problem that the NFL wanted to solve, which is they want the kickoff to be in the game. Remember, they changed this rule for 1 year, so they will have to review it in March when they get together, when the competition committee gets together, and then they will decide if there need to be more substantial tweaks to this to generate more returns while at the same time keeping it safer.
It was back in March, right after the rule was approved. Do we remember who was signed a mere minutes later by the Pittsburgh Steelers? Cordero Patterson. That is correct. I've got that game in Atlanta with the Steelers and the Falcons on Sunday. I will be speaking to Cordero Patterson, so tune in to Game Day Morning on Sunday for his thoughts on the dynamic kickoff. I talked to him when I was at training camp. See, Ian, I was at Steelers training camp at one point this summer, and I remember talking to him, and he said, you know, they're already starting to figure out some things schematically that you won't see until week 1. So I'm curious to see some of the tricks that special teams coordinators had started to work out. Once they saw this thing in action, it's like, oh, we could try this, whether from a coverage standpoint or a return standpoint. So that's going to be an exciting part. I mean, when was the last time we talked about the kickoff and the kick return as an exciting part of an NFL weekend? But that's certainly going to be the case.
By the way, when the Cordero Patterson deal broke, Tom and I were at lunch sending out the tweet. I don't think you were there, but I'm just saying we were having a nice.
You showed up late to lunch, and then you were mad that I tweeted it out from both of us because you thought you were getting it exclusively. Anyway, that's a side story. Go on.
That's true. No, that is true. I can confirm that. Yeah, no, that definitely happened. But either way, Mike was definitely not there. Anyway, I was kind of thinking along the lines of
company at our set. Omar Khan, the general manager of the Steelers at the time. But go ahead.
Yeah, that is all true. This is really a peek inside the curtain that everybody wanted. I don't really have very much to say on the dynamic kickoff, except for I'm excited to see what people choose to do and kind of what wrinkles they take for their own and use for their advantage. But I don't really have any words of wisdom, especially because those two bozos just using my time. So go ahead, Tom.
Dave Tope, Chris Horton, two really good special teams coordinators. I guarantee they got stuff cooked up. But as Judy and I both said, there's also the possibility neither one wants to take a chance right out of the gate, just kick it through the end zone. We'll find out tonight. Meanwhile, coming up Sunday, a packed slate, including the Patriots against the Bengals. That's a throwback Joe Burrow hair pick right there. He's gone through, I think, about 7 different transitions since then. Now has the blonde, tight look. Jacoby Brissett, pretty consistent. That's not him, but hair really hasn't changed a whole lot. But Jacoby says there's other parts of his game that have.
I think my knowledge of football has definitely grown. Fortunately, I have a week now rather than 2 days to get ready for a game, so that's good. And obviously just the excitement that I had when I was 22 years old, 23 years old. I still feel that same way right now. So I'm excited for this week ahead. Excited for our team. To go on the road the first week and kind of make our imprint this year and what this 2024 season is going to be.
Tom Pelissero, Judy Battista, now joined by our friend Bridget Condon, who will be covering that game in Cincinnati. First point off to Jacoby Brissett video. I love that the paint splatter hats from the late 80s, early 90s are back in full force. I think that's a sensational look for the league. But more importantly, Bridget, this is Jacoby Brissett's second run, obviously, with the Patriots. He was named the starting quarterback. He's got that rookie behind him. But what do the Patriots expect from the veteran out of the gate here?
Look, Tom, Judy, Jacoby Brissett has familiarity against the Bengals, the team he'll play first this season. Remember, he was the starting quarterback for the Browns in 2022, the first time they played the Bengals, and he was still on the team when Deshaun Watson was the starting quarterback the second time. And so he said this week that he's watched that film, but it's really interesting. He not necessarily watched it to look at himself, but he said to get an idea of Lou Anarumo's defense and how they attack offenses. He also talked about that it's set in that he is the starting quarterback for the Patriots. And there's been so much talk. You just mentioned it about Drake May. Will he be the starter? What is this going to look like for the future of the Patriots? Even Gerard Mayo, their head coach, said that Jacoby Brissett, Drake May outplayed Jacoby Brissett after that final preseason game. So I wanted to get an idea of how Jacoby has really been able to maintain this and be calm and how we see him leading this team. He even was earned a spot as a captain on the team. And in talking with people around the organization, they tell me that he is a selfless leader. He's a guy who can go out there and compete, but he's still going to mentor Drake May because this is a guy who's been a backup his entire career. He knows the expectations and what his role is. A lot of veterans maybe wouldn't be able to do that, but it's also because of the guys that he surrounds himself with. One real quick story, Bill Parcells has been his mentor, a life coach for him since he was 14. Parcells was friends with Jacoby's high school football coach, and he's taught him all these kinds of things and how to, stay calm, stay true to yourself in all the different situations that football puts you in. So to have a guy like that in your corner, it's given Jacoby this opportunity to just sit back and take things as they come.
All right, Bridget, let's look at the other team in this game. We've seen the video. We've seen Jamar Chase in pads going to practice 2 days now in a row after the hold in. Where do things stand with Jamar Chase?
Yeah, Judy, Jamar Chase has been in practice 2 straight days, like you mentioned it, listed again today on the injury report as a limited participant. But talking with people around the organization, everyone I've talked to, their expectation and belief is that Jamar Chase will be on the field for the Cincinnati Bengals playing against the Patriots on Sunday. Joe Burrow said it yesterday that he's ready to go. So how do the Patriots handle this? Well, I talked to safety Jabril Peppers, and he told me that we've been preparing as if Chase is going to play since day one. He said, if I know Jamar Chase the way I think I know Chase, he will be there out on the field come Sunday. He also called him arguably one of the best receivers in the game and said, we need to play phenomenal defense in order to try and stop this dominant Bengals offense. And so in doing that, he says we've been challenging ourselves this week in practice to play as perfect as possible.
Bridget, thank you very much. Enjoy that game on Sunday. Meanwhile, there's another AFC East team that's got a really intriguing one on that same slate.
Yep. Bills, Cardinals, Sunday. The last two times these teams met, it was the Hail Murray. Kyler to DeAndre Hopkins. The Bills hoping for a better result this time. Marvin Harrison Jr. up top there, going to be a part of this game. And the Arizona Cardinals team for the first time. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing two really good quarterbacks out there doing it with their arm and their legs. Let's hear from both.
They fly around. They are a high-intensity, pedal to the metal type of defense. They don't take plays off. They play extremely hard, and I know that their record wasn't great last year, but it doesn't speak to who they are as a team. I think that they obviously the second-year coach brings a lot of excitement and energy to that team, and we're going to have our hands full come Sunday because they're ready to prove people wrong too.
Josh, similar in abilities of being able to run, throw, do it all in that sense. He's just probably 8 inches taller than me. No, Josh, yeah, he's a dog though. Dog, great player, great quarterback. Obviously, have done a lot of great things in this league. We're both striving to win a Super Bowl though. So I look forward to being able to compete against him. Obviously, I've done it once. Know he's gonna bring his best game. So we got to do the same.
8 inches taller than him, but it's down to about 3 if he's wearing that hat right there. How's a guy in Arizona this time of year wear a wool hat? I'll never understand how some of these. My daughter right now wearing a sweater. It's 80 degrees here in Jersey. No idea what's going on. Hi, Omar.
Air conditioning,
how are you?
Mike. We never go outside. It's air conditioning all day, all the time.
Well, now to pull the curtain really far back, Omar, my air conditioner's been broken for now like 3 to 4 weeks here. I got the windows open here as I'm trying to survive. I forgot that air conditioning exists. I didn't forget you exist, though, because you're one of our key reporters when it comes to teams all over the NFL, but particularly the NFC West. You were at the Cardinals facility. You were talking to Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. about their confidence in getting off the ground quickly. What'd you learn there?
Yeah, well, I asked Kyler Murray that question about Josh Allen yesterday, and Mutual Admiration Society and Josh Allen saying about Kyler Murray that, of course, we know about his speed, but it is that cannon that certainly takes hold. And you mentioned Hail Murray the last time these two teams played, the miraculous win for the Cardinals at the last second. Certainly Bills know what Kyler Murray is capable of. Murray telling me that because Sean McDermott is still leading the Bills defense, even though they've had tremendous turnover, lost many high-profile veterans for that defense, they have a pretty good feel for what they can expect offensively in facing that Bills defense. Of course, the big change for the Cardinals offense, you mentioned it, Marvin Harrison Jr., the top pick in this year's draft, non-quarterback. He said he's excited to fulfill his lifelong dream of playing in the NFL and realize that on Sunday. I've seen him every time from the draft to OTAs to training camp, and he's always been cool, calm, and poised. I asked him, when was the last time he ever got nervous? And he told me that he gets nervous before every game. He cares so much about the game. He wants to help his team win so badly. But once those first two plays unfold, the nerves go away, and it's game on. As for Josh Allen and that offense, a lot of changes in that department as well. He's saying that even though they haven't only had 2 drives in the preseason, they feel confident they can bring that offense together. And talking to people in that building, Josh Allen's leadership certainly on display throughout the offseason. Another reason, his ability, of course, but that leadership to bring that offense together, get those young guys to believe, have confidence in themselves, the way he connects with them. And you heard him mention the Cardinals defense. He also mentioned Budda Baker, how he flies around and makes plays that are unbelievable, how he gets in and out of his cuts. And I asked Budda Baker about that, and he said, oh, yeah, that's a great compliment. He appreciates the kind words from Josh Allen, but he knows on Sunday he is coming right for him. Josh Allen lacks no confidence. He'll be ready for him on Sunday and that Bills offense. So it should be a tremendous matchup, Mike, one of the fun ones in that early window on Sunday.
Yeah, Cardinals a fascinating team. Usually, NFL teams, you can get a window of 4 to 5 wins, 3 to 4, somewhere around there. Cardinals could be like this.
Yeah.
It's not even the screen. It's so wide. It's not the screen. Like it could be anywhere from, a couple of wins all the way up to potentially a playoff team. And Josh Allen's right. Their record wasn't great, but they were a team that was a bit of a nag for some teams, especially early in the season last year. Omar Ruiz, thank you very much. Tua Tagovailoa, he says he's got the it factor. He and the Dolphins this year. What is he talking about? Frankly, I don't know, which is why I'm tuning into the next segment to find out here on The Insiders as Tua and the Dolphins get ready for the Jags.
Welcome back to the Insiders. You know, there's some history between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins. It was the Jaguars who were the last opponent against Dan Marino, sent him into retirement. I was at that game as a reporter. I could tell you, as somebody who grew up in South Florida, it was painful to watch Marino go out that way. I had a poster of Dan Marino in my dorm room. That's how I felt about Dan Marino. Very tough to watch that game. It was probably one of the worst performances of the Miami Dolphins in Dan Marino's career. But that was then, and this is now, and those teams are going to meet this week. Trevor Lawrence and Tua, game one.
You've put all the work in during practice throughout the week, preparing, watching tape. So at that point, that's the fun part. You get to go play, and not every play is going to be perfect, but you just got to live for the next play. So that's something that is important to just remind yourself, and I'll definitely remind the guys before we go out there is, hey, we got each other's back. Just go out there, play. You know what to do. Play free. Don't think, and just let it rip. I think that's the biggest thing.
Mike kind of said he noticed an it factor in you, I guess, in regard to how the team responds to you when you speak up and when you're vocal. I'm curious for you, at what moment kind of did you realize that you had gained the respect of the team as a vocal leader?
Like the it factor? I've had the it factor. No, I've had the it factor since I was in high school, then going into college, and then coming here. That's how I've always viewed myself, as going out and competing. Yeah, very, very nice, very cool, calm, collective, but like inside just very competitive.
Well, he did have the in factor in college. So did Trevor Lawrence, for that matter. Cam Wolfe and Mark Ross returns. Cam, you're going to be at this game. Obviously, this is not the first time that Trevor and Tua have faced each other. Played a pretty big game in college football. What should we expect from them this weekend?
First thing Tua said about his matchup with Trevor Lawrence is it was not a good memory. They played in that 2019 national title game that they lost by 28 points. He said, "We lost, brother. Anytime you lose one of those games, it sticks with you. They killed us." But he said he is not looking for revenge because he's not playing Trevor Lawrence. He's playing the Jags defense. But what's cool about this Florida Bowl matchup is there's a lot of similarities between these two quarterbacks, both hyped top 5 quarterbacks who won national titles in college. They both got paid huge money this offseason with big extensions. But for people outside of their building, there may still be some question marks. For Tua, is can he lead this team to winning a playoff game for the first time in 24 years? Can he get over the hump? And this week, we heard from teammates talk about how he's been a lot more vocal in that respect, showing his true personality. You saw it there in the video about the it factor. That's Tua. I've had the it factor. That's how he normally functions. And Tyreek Hill said it well this week. He said, look, Tua started to over communicate like Patrick Mahomes does within the offense. That's how I know how comfortable he is. He said Mike McDaniel's given him full keys to control this offense in year 3, and it's helped all of us on the field. Now, for Trevor, it's taking ownership with the Jags as far as his decision-making. He's had 60 turnovers in the last 3 years. And so a big focus in camp, talking to people there, is having him make more selective risk and when he runs the ball so he doesn't get hurt like he was last year, and to limit those turnovers. I talked with Jaguar safety Andre Sisco today, and I asked him, what did you see from Trevor in camp? He said the big thing that stood out for me is he was taking more strong, confident, deep shots down the field to Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis. He said that's a key element of his game, and when he's confident making those plays, that helps the offense. So keep an eye on that Sunday.
Yeah, a lot of similarities there, Cam, but both have a lot to prove. That's another thing. But the huge difference is in their play style, and that Tua, you almost know exactly who he is right now with that Mike McDaniel offense, is get the ball out quick, and we've seen him be prolific with that. But for Tua to have that it factor, he's got to show he can get out of that system and make big-time plays off of that first read and go to a second read and still be accurate. And also, when he faces pressure, the ability to get out of pressure and still make plays. He has not shown the ability to do that yet. That's why they've kind of faltered in big games. He has to take that step to be that it. But on the flip side, with Trevor Lawrence is he's just been so inconsistent. Although he's been so highly touted and he was supposed to be the guy, the next one, the inconsistency. You talked about the turnovers. He has to straighten that out. He's had games where he looks like, yeah, this is the guy we thought he would be. And in other games, it's saying, what is going on with this guy? Can he play? So that consistency is so key for him. For Tua, it's I got to take a step and come out of this quick passing game and show I can have the it, Judy and Cam.
Can't wait to see both of these guys and where their seasons go. Cam, Mark, thank you.
Fantasy football is back. Head to NFL.com/fantasy to create your NFL fantasy team. All leagues include free live scoring, instant video highlights, enhanced gameplay, and exclusive features. One of our semi-exclusive features on this show, our guy Michael F. Florio, who has about 178 fantasy teams at NFL.com/fantasy. Okay, it's last minute, Michael F. If you haven't set your lineup by now, I would imagine you're somebody who's probably going to forget to do things a lot. But give me some advice here. Quarterback starts and sits, first of all.
I think you want to start Matthew Stafford in week 1. When the Rams played the Lions in the playoffs last year, he went off for 367 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's healthy. Kupp's healthy. Puka, Kyron, all of them are healthy. And when they were healthy last year, this was one of the best offenses in the league. It's an indoor game. I expect a lot of points. I'd play him over Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, and over Aaron Rodgers, who I have as a sit this week. Him and Kirk Cousins are going to be the first quarterbacks to start week 1 after tearing an Achilles as far back as we can track. Dan Marino is the only QB to come back from this injury in the last 40 years. Again, he's 40 years old, Aaron Rodgers, against the 49ers pass rush. I need to see it first before I put him in my lineup.
Oh, that's a crazy thought. All right, that's the quarterbacks. Give us a couple running back starts and sits.
Devon Achane got all the talk all summer, but Raheem Mostert is still a thing. So I'm starting Raheem Mostert this year. Mike McDaniel clearly has a lot of trust in him. The Dolphins paid him in the offseason, and we only saw one drive with Tua this preseason, but Mostert dominated the volume there. We know he's going to have a role, and he's going to be the goal line back. I don't feel as confident in another aging running back, Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dow, while we're at it. Dow has been getting more steam as the RB1 as of late, but I don't think Jerry Jones is ever going to let Zeke fully disappear, especially not early on. And given the tough matchup against the Browns and the uncertainty of how the work will be distributed, I say stay away from the Cowboys' backfield in week 1.
All right, time for wide receivers, and so help me if you tell me to sit one of the following. Rashee Rice, CeeDee Lamb, Drake London, Hollywood Brown's not playing, so you're off the hook. The guys that you helped me draft the other night, if you tell me to sit any of them, you're in trouble, Florio.
I'm telling you to start all of those guys, and I told you to draft Jaden Daniels. I'm starting his wide receiver 1, Terry McLaurin, this week as well. We all know the upside that Terry brings, but I think a quarterback upgrade raises his ceiling even higher. The Bucs last year allowed the 4th most yards to receivers, and they lost Carlton Davis this offseason. Plus, Cliff Kingsbury loves to get his wide receiver 1 plenty of volume, but I will sit one of my own. I'm sitting Keon Coleman against the Cardinals. He brings a lot of upside this season. He's just risky in week 1. Sean McDermott loves to kind of slow ride his rookies. We've seen him do it with James Cook and Dalton Kincaid, kind of bring them along slowly. Plus, I just want to make sure the volume is there. If you're playing any Bills wide receiver this week, I think it should be Khalil Shakir.
Fantasy Live, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on weekdays. You can see Florio and the rest of the gang. Michael F., thank you, as always, for being here. Coming up after this, more insiders, because why not? Let's go. It's game day. New time slots, new platforms. Same show you love. This is where you can find the insiders all season, including every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on NFL Plus, YouTube, and the NFL channel across all FAST platforms. You can find those free apps. Get the insiders for free on your smart TVs. Enjoy the games. We got games, real live games coming up. It all starts tonight.
Games.
Have fun, everybody. Stay safe out there. See you Monday.